Hi there, and thank you for joining UnSCRIPTed. I'm Angela Kashuba, Dean of the UNC Eshelman School of Pharmacy. We have here an amazing community at the school with a shared goal of solving the world's most pressing healthcare challenges. And I am excited for you to hear unscripted stories of our faculty, staff, alums, students, and partners. Today, I have invited Tim Willson to join me in my office for a conversation. Thanks so much, Tim, for being here today.
Thank you, Angela. It's a pleasure to be here.
Can you tell me a little bit about your journey to the pharmacy school? You come from the pharma industry, so what prompted the transition?
That's right. So I spent my first career in the pharmaceutical industry doing drug discovery as a medicinal chemist. But then the pharma company made a decision to move its research from out of North Carolina. We put down good roots here in the Triangle area, didn't want to move. So one of the bosses I'd had when I worked at GSK was Stephen Fry. When I was contemplating what I should do in my next career, I gave Stephen a call and he introduced me to the former dean, and we sat down and we had a chat and talked about what the opportunities were here at the School of Pharmacy. It's really allowed me to get back to the passion of doing basic research. There was a lot of questions I was interested in answering, so coming here to the school really gave us a chance to do that.
No, I think that's terrific. You currently lead the only U.S. site for the Structural Genomics Consortium. Can you tell us a little bit about the Structural Genomics Consortium and its mission?
The goal of the Structural Genomics Consortium is to try and solve some of the bigger problems that we face in the area of drug discovery. So many of the fundamental problems you try and solve, no single organization could do by themselves. But if organizations can pool some of their resources, then you can ask some of the bigger questions. And one of the big questions that the Structural Genomics Consortium is trying to answer is, what is the function of all the poorly studied proteins that are in our bodies? And so one of the things Structural Genomics Consortium is trying to do is by pooling resources from contributors from multiple pharmaceutical companies, say, if we understood better what those other proteins were doing, then maybe that increased understanding of how the body works will give us better targets for future drug discovery. So I first interacted with the SGC actually when I was in pharma, because I was the pharma board representative for GSK at the SGC.
Oh, okay.
I was interested in establishing a lab where we could contribute to this, solving this puzzle of what are all these proteins in our body, what's their function. Specifically, how can we use chemistry to make small molecules that turn on or turn off the function of those proteins and use that as tools to then study them in cells and in animals.
Yeah, that is so interesting. You mentioned the term open science. Can you unpack that a little bit for us?
All of the SGC laboratories are open science laboratories. So all the work we do, we share all of the data we generate, we share all the reagents we generate, we share all of the compounds that we generate. We do that in a completely unrestricted manner, so we don't file patent applications on any of our discoveries. We actually put them in the public domain so other people can utilize those. If you're trying to solve a really broad, big problem, we found that by being completely open in our research allows us to be far more collaborative. And so if you're trying to set up collaboration to solve broad fundamental problems, by doing it as an open science laboratory, we found that it goes much quicker. Because we're there just trying to answer the question, and we go into it just trying to solve the scientific problem and not worrying about, oh, can you commercialize that at the end of the day, then we find that everyone has a sort of shared goal.
Right. Yeah, I love that. It kind of removes the silos and allows really great collaboration. That's terrific. And a very noble, I think, cause as well.
What I love about being at the school and being an academic institution is that, our primary goal is to teach and to do research. I think by staying true to that goal of teaching and research, it allows you to really focus on the fundamental problem you're trying to solve without always having to encumber that research with worries about commercialization. So.
Right, yeah. You mentioned that you've been a chemist for your whole life.
Yeah.
What drew you to chemistry, and why do you stay?
So my journey actually started when I was a teenager in my garage, in my parents' garage. My mum brought home one day one of these home chemistry kits.
All right.
So I started in the garage just playing with that chemistry kit. So I grew up in the UK, and one of the oddities of the British education system was that if you were fortunate like me and you kind of found your passion, what you were good at, you could specialize from a very early age. So essentially from the age of 18, I studied nothing but chemistry. I was fortunate that I loved doing chemistry. I loved the fact that I could, with my own hands, create a new compound that no one had ever made before. Make that compound and actually see that compound either as a crystal or a powder in a vial.
Yeah.
So that fascinated me. And then as I got to do more and more organic chemistry, I became really interested in how I could use chemistry to answer scientific problems. The fact you could make a compound and design a compound that you could actually answer basic scientific questions with things you could create with your own hands.
Yeah, that's terrific. Another passion I understand you have is that you're a triathlete.
That is true. I am a late developing triathlete. So,
Well, but it's amazing. So tell me about that journey.
So it really starts at the age of 40. I'd spent much of my career working way too hard. My wife said to me that if I didn't go and get some exercise, I'd probably have a heart attack. So I signed up at a gym and then met some friends, and we started to ride bikes, and I started to do a lot of cycling. When my daughter was learning to swim, I decided that I too should probably learn to swim, since I could swim to save my life, but I couldn't do a lap of the pool. So I took that as a challenge. I learned to swim, and then having learnt to swim and I could ride a bike, I thought, well, why don't I try one of these triathlons? And that's really sort of how I started my triathlon journey.
So how was that first triathlon?
The first one was, was a very short triathlon, but then I got interested in doing sort of longer distance triathlons. I got captivated by the challenge of how do you organize the training of 3 different sports, and how do you balance that actually being reasonably efficient at each of them. But as a scientist, I enjoyed the fact that you really had to be very organized and very disciplined, and I enjoyed the routine of having every day a different sport to actually have to do some training for.
Yeah. I like that, taking the science skills and applying them in other ways.
Right.
Well, you're definitely an inspiration.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm in any way gifted at triathlon, but I think it's like there's a lot of similarities to science in a way, that if you're organized and you're disciplined and you work conscientiously at each part of it, then when it actually comes to the race, then all those pieces come together.
Yes, to success. Yeah, terrific. One more question for you.
Yes.
So you are the awardee of a Kohn professorship dedicated to Hal Kohn. Can you talk about what that means for you?
What it means to me is what's most important to me is that having brought the SGC here to the school, I really want to see that it's embedded and has a longevity here in the school as a center for open science. By the Kohns establishing this professorship in open science, I think it brings a level of permanence in that commitment to open science here at the school. And so I'm honored to be the recipient of the first chair, but I hope that there'll be many more chairs of open science here at the school, and that the SGC will have a long history here, really supported by this chair.
Yeah, terrific. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure to talk to you.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Angela. It was great to have a chance to talk a little bit about my background and what brought me here to the school. And I'm really happy that at this phase in my career, I found such a great home for the science that we do.
I love that. Thank you. And thank you very much for joining us for this episode of UnSCRIPTed. We love sharing stories of those who make the UNC Eshelman School of Pharmacy really great. And I hope you will join us for the next episode of UnSCRIPTed, conversations with people who are advancing medicine for life. See you next time.